Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction preview series where we look ahead to the next Arsenal match, which brings back some pretty bad memories a year ago against Olympiacos. And hopefully Arsenal are going to turn things around this time and prove that they can, in fact, beat their Greek nemesis. And to look ahead to the game, I'm joined by two of our expert members. First of all, it's a man who has been on plenty of times now. It's Jared. How you doing, mate? Are you well?
Doing really good. How are you, Tom?
Yes, very good. Very, very good. Thank you very much. And it's interesting, obviously, the fact that we're talking again, isn't it, ahead of Olympia? I mean, I was on with Sophie the other day and she said that I've got to work on the pronunciation because it's Olympiacos. Is how we're going with it. Apparently, I'm told. She has the priority over me in terms of the pronunciation.
Yeah, she's got it over you and me both because I say Olympiacos also.
Yeah, we're just both wrong. It's just how it is. Dear me.
Not the first time.
Yes, of course. Not the first time either of us have been wrong, it's fair to say. We might go on to that with your lineup selection in a second. So we'll go through that. We're also joined by Lewis. How are you doing, mate? Are you well?
Yeah, I'm good. It's really funny because my surname, if anyone's seen it in the chat, is actually from Cyprus. So I should have a bit more of authority of how to pronounce Greek names. Clearly don't. I love the way Sophie just sounds so well spoken, like very typical British, and then she'll go into talking about Socrates or Olympiacos, and it's like, oh my word, okay then, no, you are Greek, okay, I remember.
Yeah, it's so seamless how she just pronounces them straight off the bat, just talking about it like from North London, and all of a sudden just transitions seamlessly. Yeah, a little bit jealous, actually. Anyway, moving forwards into actually looking ahead to the game, we'll come on to some of our lineups very, very soon. But Jared, for me, this is a bit of a dream tie in a way because I was so done in at the end of the game last year. I was absolutely fuming that it's a good opportunity for Arsenal to get the revenge, if anything. Are you looking forward to this? And you glad that ultimately we drew them?
I really was. There was a couple teams in there I definitely didn't want. And after that, there was some easier matchups and then a few that would be interesting. And this definitely falls into the interesting. After the way it ended last year, I think it left our entire fan base pretty devastated that day after the game. And I think it's a great opportunity, and we've got a lot of the same players. So, if any group was going to be motivated to go out and perform well in this tie, it should be the group of guys we have now after the way things ended last year.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, a game in which will show, obviously, kind of the improvement that we've made in a way, the progression that we've had, the better players that we've now got. And obviously the league table doesn't represent any kind of progress as of yet. But where we finish in this competition and in the league as well, obviously give us some idea as to how we've kind of moved forwards. Lewis, are you concerned in any way about this game? Obviously, we know that they're no mugs. We're not going to underestimate them because of how well they did against us last time. But is it a game that you're concerned about?
I think with how critical it is for our season and how inconsistent we have been, yes, obviously you'd be foolish to think that we find ourselves in a very similar situation to Benfica. But I think the team's shown a lot of character, and you would imagine we'd have enough over two legs to get through, yet we all thought that last time, and we made Benfica a lot more difficult for ourselves than it actually needed to. So I would always say cautious optimism being an Arsenal fan.
Yeah, always cautious optimism, which is ultimately let down quite often. it's just how we build ourselves up with all this hope, and we go into these games. I mean, doing this show and doing the fact that we get the previews and the predictions and the score lines going into the chat ahead of the Man City game. I mean, even in the podcast the other day, looking ahead to the Spurs game, it was all positive, and people were like, "Yes, we're going to win these matches," and we're so often let down. I mean, it has been a very strange season, Jared, but thinking about that, we're now 6 games away from the final, winning this game, quarterfinal, semi-final. And we don't know, obviously, who could we face if we manage to get over that first hurdle. But how do you actually think the team need to go into this tie? Do you think with the kind of the narrative around revenge, the narrative around like this is a chance to make up for what happened last year, do you think Arteta might use that as kind of a motivational tool? Or is it very going to much be, we know what we're about, we know how to play our game and just focus on what we need to do?
I think as far as in the locker room, that may be something, obviously it's going to come up at some point. It is a good way to motivate people, and they should feel motivated. They played well enough to win that tie last year and didn't get it done. So they should have that motivation to go out there and get a better result this year. I'm kind of torn on this one because, and you'll see it's kind of reflected when we get to the lineups. I know mine will probably be very different from you guys, and probably a lot of people in the chat will dislike my lineup. But the way I approach it is, while we should be looking to get revenge and use that as motivation, the first leg, I want to be as risk averse as possible. We can't go in and lose the tie in the first leg. That's how I approach it. So you can't go down to 10 men. You can't get red cards. You can't have the errors leading to goals. All of those things are absolute killers if we go out in the away leg and do that. So while all the players should have that motivation, we should talk about that a lot, I've kind of went the opposite way in terms of setup, in that I think we need to be somewhat conservative, but more so just put out a lineup that is not going to make those big errors and end the tie that first game on the road.
Ed Welch in the chat says we need to take these one game at a time and focus on Olympiacos. We can't afford for players to lose focus and be thinking about any other rounds ahead of us already. And Lewis, we know the quality that Olympiacos have. They've added quality since as well. They've added the narrative will be Socrates obviously moving out there and joining them from us. He would have been able to give them inside knowledge maybe of what Arteta's tactics have tried to be this season. They've added other players in like Lala at right back. They've got Valbuena, we know a lot about as well from his time at Marseille and in the French national side. So they are no mugs. El Arabi is still there, the striker that of course scored the goal against us at the Emirates too. So how concerned are you about the players that they have, and where do you think, and ultimately what do you think about Socrates being there as well?
Well, I listened to Charles Watts today on YouTube, and he did an interview with Bruma. And apparently one of the quotes from there is apparently Socrates has been saying, I know about their centre-backs, or something along those lines, to try and infiltrate some weaknesses. You've got to be worried. I also saw another video from AFTV. Robbie interviewed a couple of guys that run an Olympiacos channel, and they're really confident that they've recruited some good fullbacks who are a lot quicker, who are a lot more aggressive, who are going to put the pressure on us. I think if we can dictate our play and we can get to the possession and still play from the back, I still think we're good at playing from the back. I think we will find the pocket. What we can't do, kind of what Jared said, is give away silly mistakes. But I think that's more of a personality thing than a personnel thing.
Yeah, I think the mistakes is always going to be something that needs to be gradually weaned out of the side. Arteta has tried to do that by moving on some of the key players we know have made mistakes, Mustafi, Kolasinac, etc. There are still some in that lineup that we've got. Luiz is arguably one of our better centre-backs right now, and for me is probably in our strongest starting pair with Pablo Mari at the moment. But he obviously does have the mistakes in him, as we know. Granit Xhaka is one of our more consistent midfielders, but as we know, has a big mistake in him, like we saw against Burnley. And maybe that means that some of us will suggest he should be rotated out for this game. We'll have a look at the lineups immediately. We're going to look at them right now. And Jared, you're going to go first, mate, and talk us through your selection for Thursday's game.
All right. So like I said, I kind of approached it with, we need to get an away goal. Obviously, that's a key thing here. So I went with a team that's got a good attack. And on the back end, like I said, I don't want to do something to lose this tie on the first leg. So I kind of took the risk-averse approach and took out all of the players that tend to have those errors in them. So with that, in goal, Leno, I think that's pretty straightforward. We're all going to have him. At right back, I've got everybody in the chat's favorite player, Hector Bellerin. And the reason for this is like I said, when I say I take out Granit Xhaka because I'm afraid of the big error, everyone basically agrees with that, and no one really gets after me in the chat. When I say I take off Cedric for the same reason, people are going to go crazy because it's kind of the in vogue thing to dislike Hector Bellerin. But looking at it realistically, in the last 4 years in the Premier League, 4 full seasons now, the number 1 player in errors leading to goals, outfield players obviously, is Granit Xhaka. Number 2 for the entire league is Cedric. So I don't buy into this. He's going to solidify the defense and he's better than Bellerin. He's got an error in him more than Bellerin does. So for that reason, I'm sticking with Hector in that spot. The center back pairing, Pablo Mari has been great. I think he's exceeded everybody's expectations and he's been consistent. I like his spot in there. I'm with you. I think in general, if you had to look at our best pairing, I'm with you. It's probably David Luiz, but because he does have the error in him, I want this first leg. I'm going to put Rob Holding in there. He and Mari have had a good partnership and had some good results, so I feel pretty good about those two. Kieran Tierney is a given. If he's healthy, he's in there every game, no question. The midfield two, Thomas Partey, kind of the same thing. Clearly the class of our midfield. If he's healthy, he's in. And I paired him with Ceballos, who I know recently did have a pretty big blunder, but bounced back when he came on as a sub against Burnley, and I thought looked pretty lively in that game and really offered something going forward. So I'm willing to give him a shot here. This is one where I'm pretty sure Arteta is going to go the other way. I expect us to play Partey and Xhaka, but my choice for the same reasons be Ceballos and Partey. Up front, it sounds like ESR is going to have maybe a workout today and check fitness levels to see if he travels. You know, even if he passes that and does travel, I don't think I expect him to start. So I think we will see Odegaard at the 10 tomorrow. And then in the attacking three, on the right side, another given. Bukayo Saka is our right winger. He's the best one we have, best player on the team. He's in without a doubt. On the left, this was one where I think Lacazette's played well enough this year that, you know, I wouldn't mind seeing him start. He's an experienced player. He's a veteran presence. But Pepe's looked good of late, and he's another one. When he came on against Burnley, looked really lively. While we didn't convert, he created a lot of dangerous opportunities for us. And I think he's warranted earning himself a start. And then up front, you know, Alba's the captain. He's going to lead the line, and I expect him to be out there. If Lacazette plays, obviously he'd be on the left. But like I said, I like Pepe to get the start. I think he's done enough to earn it of late. And then I like Alba out front to hopefully really want some revenge for the miss at the end of the game last year.
I'll react to that after we've heard from all of them. So, Lewis, here's yours. Talk us through it, mate.
So, yeah, mine is definitely a bit different. I've gone with, as Jared said, you know, Tierney, if he's fit, he's at left back. Mari, been excellent, and I think I like the way he gets a lot of, not stick, but he's a no-nonsense centre-back, which, true, but he can punch the ball into midfield, so I think he gets a bit of a bum rap at times about his inability to be progressive in the way we want to play. David Luiz does give you that extra option, those raking passes that can clear midfield if need be, so he's in. And then I've gone Cedric at right back. I'm kind of I want to pin that thought there. My midfield, Xhaka and Partey. Partey, our best midfielder. And the reason why I've gone with Xhaka kind of leads into the reasons why I've gone for the wingers ahead of Tierney and Cedric respectively. When we were playing three at the back last season, as Tierney was coming out of left centre back, and you had Saka at left wing back, Xhaka was so important to that relationship up that left hand side. And I think this suits it nicely. Saka's been amazing on the right hand side, but I did think he looked a bit jaded on the weekend. So I think by putting him back on the left, that relationship he's got with Tierney is really good. You can see they know each other's moves instinctively, and I can see it being a hard game to break people down. Similarly, that's why I've gone with Pepe on the right, even though he has a big improvement on the left. He's developed a nice little instinctive relationship with Cedric. I think if you've got a Tierney and Saka intuitive relationship on one side, Cedric and Pepe similarly on the other side, that can bring some movement. Odegaard and Oba, you're just hoping Odegaard keeps the play ticking and Oba can snap up some chances.
You pinned Cedric earlier on and kind of talked about him as differently, I suppose, to Jared. What do you make about Jared saying about the mistake that he's got in the errors leading to goal? Do you still think ultimately he's the right man to play ahead of Bellerin at the moment?
I mean, I've watched a lot of your stuff, and I do think that what Bellerin gives you is, without being, you know, spectacular, he does give an air of defensive solidity in our own third. I think attacking-wise, while he his crossing has been so poor. The amount of times, or maybe it just sticks out to me as an Arsenal fan, but there's been more than one occasion that Bellerin's poor crossing we've been counted again. And I think that Cedric is far more intelligent in his attacking play. But whilst maybe he's potentially open for a mistake, and maybe Bellerin is a bit less vulnerable in that sense, he'll recycle the ball or he'll put in a more dangerous cross. And I think that relationship with Pepe is so positive. You can get so much more out from it. It asks the question, if you can, attack is the best form of defense. If we have the ball, if we can recycle the ball, we're going to be less vulnerable against an Olympiacos side that will be dangerous. You still expect us to be dictating the play and the narrative of this game.
In terms of what I've gone for, I've gone exactly the same as Lewis, except I've just swapped the wings over. So it's very similar. I gone for Cedric as well. He didn't play against Burnley because supposedly he was ill for that game, and that's why he wasn't in the squad. But it was very interesting to see the fact that Chambers came straight in instead of it being Bellerin for whatever reason. I saw No Sleep in the chat suggested that apparently Bellerin had asked basically to move on this summer. Now, as far as I'm aware, that's not something that's come across my lane. The only info I've got around Bellerin is that there was supposedly some truth in the rumours that him and Arteta have had a conversation well in advance of the Burnley game that this could be his final season at the club, and they look to move him on this summer. So I'm not sure if that is any reason as to why. I think that he chose Chambers to give us more kind of defensive solidity on the counter against Burnley and to offer us more on that side, especially with Pepe and Saka and Willian playing together against Burnley. So I think that's why I went with it. But I think Cedric should come back in if he is now fit, and he has been training for as far as I'm aware, so that should be no problem at all. Marie and Louise, I just think is the most competent two at the back at the moment, the most experienced pair. Marie and Holding are very similar ages, but Marie, in terms of his experience of playing across different continents, different leagues, and I think his consistency this season when he's played has been more consistent than Holding has been. And that's not to say that Holding's not been really consistent. I think Holding's had a couple, 2 or 3 poor games all season, but Marie, I can't really pick out a really poor game from him, to be honest. He's made some individual errors, the penalty he gave away against Chelsea, the way he backed off against Tielemans against Leicester. But besides these individual moments, he has been very, very good otherwise from that. And I agree with Lewis, the fact that he does move the ball into midfield really well with his passing when he tries it too. Tierney, it's just self-explanatory, really. Xhaka and Partey in the middle. I was tempted to go with Ceballos to give Xhaka a rest, but I don't know. I just kind of feel like after that mistake against Burnley, do you drop him and then just completely throw him under the bus? I'm not so sure if that's the right way to go about it. And I think that he does make our left-hand side a hell of a lot better with regards to his passing and the way he distributes it to the left wing. And speaking of the left wing, I've gone for Pepe there because I really liked him when he was playing on the left. I think Saka's better than Pepe on the right as well. And I think that it makes Pepe less predictable. And I think he'll give Kenny Lala on their right-hand side a lot of issues with his trickiness as well. Ødegaard coming straight back in. I thought he didn't have the most amazing of games against Burnley. I don't believe he actually deserved to get substituted off for his performance, but I didn't think he was amazing. But he should come back in as our only real kind of fit number 10 with Emile Smith-Rowe having trained. He might be in the squad for tomorrow's game, but he might not yet be ready to start. But his injury is coming along, and he shouldn't be out for too much longer, if at all. And Aubameyang up top, as we've all kind of agreed on that sense too, and hopefully he will want to build upon the fact that he missed that huge charge against Olympiacos last season in the last kicker kind of the game, and it cost us, and hopefully he'll want to turn things around. So that concludes our lineup predictions as we move to the final part of the show, which is, of course, predictions. So chat box, do get your scoreline predictions in for the game, and we'll read through some of those at the end. But Lewis, I'm going to start with you, mate. Give me your prediction, scoreline and scorers for the game, please.
Going to go with 2-0. Then we'll keep a clean sheet. Over goal. Pepe goal.
Okay, that's solid. It's good. I think a 2-0 and 2 away goals going into the home leg would be very favourable for us. Jared?
Pretty similar. I predicted this one 2-1 to Arsenal, and I actually had the same 2 scorers, Alba and Pepe.
Well, there you go. And I was even more optimistic. I went for 3-0 because I am just the most optimistic man on earth, clearly. And obviously, it's going to be Alba with 2 and a Cedric Screamer is what's going to be the 2 goal scorers, which if we can kill this game in the first leg, which I know we always kind of talk about, we talked about it with the Benfica game, but it would be a massive boost as well going into the Spurs game. We would be able to bring players off in the second half to give them a rest ahead of that North London derby at the weekend. So how we approach this game is going to be kind of really intriguing in regards to lineup, substitutions throughout the game, and kind of the route that the game takes as well. Let's go into the chat box and see what you guys are saying in regards to your predictions. Zorgi says 2-1. Ed says 2-1 Arsenal, Socrates scoring for them. It's just written in the stars that that's going to happen for 100%. Alex Bartnick says 2-2. Gonna Go Holly says 2-0 Arsenal, Aubameyang and Saka to score. Ed says 3-1. We get the away goals we need to move on. Daniel Roberts says 6-0 Arsenal. He's always uber positive, is Daniel. Aubameyang to score 2 hat-tricks, beating Giroud's hat-trick 6 years ago. Jack Webb says 3-0, finally a comfortable knockout game for Arsenal. Bismarck says 4-0 to the... I'm hoping that's to the Arsenal anyway. Matt G says 2-0 Arsenal, Aubameyang with 2 and Ødegaard with 1. I don't know how you've managed to do that. That would be incredible to get a 2-0 scoreline with 3 players scoring. Hopefully there's no own goals in that, Matt. Machiavelli says 1-1 or a 1-0 for us. He's sitting on the fence pretty firmly there. Karthik says 3-0 Aubameyang brace and a Louise header. W says 3-1. Porky Pork says 2-1. Steve Stone says 1-1. No clean sheet again. I'm sorry. You have to apologise because we don't deal with this negativity in our chat box. And Zorgi says, never mind. 3-1. You changed my mind. Fair enough. We've changed his mind, which is obviously a win. We finished off the show, of course, by letting the guys give a shout out to where you can find them on the social medias. A massive thank you to Jared. Really appreciate your time, mate. Tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, always a pleasure to come on and join you for a quick pod. And yeah, you can find me on Twitter right down there. It comes up as Chicago Gooner, and I'm pretty active on there for the most part.
There you go. Go give Jared a follow. And Lewis, much appreciated time, mate. You're not on Twitter, I believe, but they can find you in the Discord server.
You can find me in the Discord server, but I am genuinely tempted to maybe start doing a little bit more.
Don't do it.
Maybe don't do it. Don't do it. Advise against it.
Honestly, once you start, you won't stop.
Right. I'm playing it by ear. I've got an idea to get a bit more involved in the Arsenal community, but I've not got anything set up yet. But maybe next time I will. Maybe I'll have my own Twitter handle and doing some more bits and pieces by then.
Fair enough, Lewis. Fair enough. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you which one or the other. Just my advice would be really think about it. Because once you're in, you can't get out. So that is the biggest problem with it, for sure. I know a fair few people that would wish they never set up their own Twitter account. Anyway, thank you so much to my fantastic guests, Jared and Lewis. You can find them, or you can find Jared on his social media, and maybe we'll find Lewis very soon on Twitter. You can make sure you follow us at The Gooner Talk TV and at Tom Cantor Media. I'll be back straight after the game tomorrow night, and fingers crossed, for the first time in a few weeks, because I'm not working, thank God, during one of the games, I'll be joining Hugh Izzy for the watch along as well. So make sure you tune in to Hugh's channel for that. We will see you again then straight after the game. Best of luck to the boys. Let's hope we can take away a massive victory away from home and kill the tie off in the first leg. So we'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.